Shocking images have come to the fore of exactly what happened in Nagpur last night, which has never witnessed this kind of rioting, this kind of violence before. So what exactly happened? We've accessed a whole score of CCTV footage, but the most damning ones we'll break down for you. The 6 CCTV footages that confirm that this was a pre-planned conspiracy here on Super 6. The first one on your screens shows vehicles on fire. And actually, in the very beginning of the footage, you see people hurling something at the vehicle. It's suspected that petrol bombs were used to ensure incidents of arson, to ensure explosions took place in Nagpur last night. Where did these petrol bombs come from? You see this mob there gathered very close, throwing items, stones, also suspected to be petrol bombs. Let's get you the second footage that we want to show you here on India Today, where you see, in fact, this mob running full speed. Some of them have their faces covered, some don't. But you see how brazenly they're going ahead and targeting vehicles, vandalizing public property with sticks seemingly. God knows where they got all this from. They're going ahead and targeting all the vehicles parked along this area. Imagine now how much local residents suffered as a result of these kind of riots. Third CCTV footage that we'd like to show you here on India Today shows how brazenly cops were attacked. Even police officials weren't spared. Senior officers were all seen wounded. 4 DCPs injured. In all, over 30 cops have been injured as a result of pelting. And what we've seen here, and this is something authorities also have confirmed, is that police officials who were at this spot were targeted by this mob. No fear of law, clearly. They went on this rampage, targeting cops, pelting stones at them. One police officer was also attacked with an axe. And we'll talk about that in just a bit, of how he had a deep gash on his hand because he was attacked by an axe. We'll decode for you how cops have been the target, particularly, of all of this violence last night. But let's get you the next set of images as well, of the violence that unfolded in Nagpur. Here you see a bunch of these mobsters clearly going out and targeting shops, vandalizing any local establishment, vandalizing locals. So just look at the number of people. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has confirmed that there were 80 to 100 people involved, and they all had massive stones with which they were vandalizing property left, right and center, completely not caring really about the kind of security establishment. And what you see there is also CCTV camera being destroyed to ensure there's no evidence per se to nab them. Let's get you the next footage of what exactly happened. Now this, you see how vehicles were in fact brought down, how stone pelting repeatedly happened, and all of them, many of them rather, have their faces completely covered to ensure they can't be identified. This almost has become a one-on-one on how to riot, which is that they'll cover their faces so nobody can identify them, and they think they can get away with this kind of a crime. Many of them had their faces covered. Many of them were armed. And obviously, all of that is evidence that, this wasn't just some sort of spontaneous anger out on the streets. Let's get you the next sequence as well and show you how you had local establishments suffering the plight and suffering because of this mob that went on this kind of a rampage. And they were out there for many hours, not listening to the cops, not caring that there was a crackdown on them. They continued despite that. And these are youngsters who don't even have their faces covered, which is why many of them have been identified. So we've shown you all the CCTV footage that's emerged from riot-hit Nagpur, 6 particular ones that we wanted to highlight here on Super 6, because every single frame of that footage shows you that this was a pre-planned incident to incite, to spread violence, all in the name of Aurangzeb, a Mughal emperor, after so many centuries, now back grabbing headlines and triggering this kind of violence. Here's why we're saying this is pre-planned. First, there's proof that the mobsters all, of course, had in fact covered their faces. Let's take it from number 1. They covered their faces to ensure their identities aren't revealed. Second, this mob was armed. They had sticks. Reports suggest they had swords. Some of them had axes. The mob even had petrol bombs, which takes time to prepare. Where did they get this from? But they used it to create widespread incidents of arson. And this perhaps is the most incriminating. A truck filled with stones was caught by our cameras when, in fact, this riot broke out in Nagpur. So if you're wondering how these incidents of pelting suddenly happened, that this was a mob that, went out onto the streets, grabbed stones, not really. There was a truck laden with stones just waiting there conveniently enough for this mob to hit the streets and target cops, target locals. So now there's also an investigation launched into whether this was pre-planned, because like I showed you, there's enough evidence that seems to suggest that everything was just perfectly put in place for this kind of a riot, for this kind of violence. The audacity of this mob was shocking, specifically targeting police officers. Over 30 cops were injured, 35. And just look at all of this footage of how cops were struggling after they were pelted with stones. You'd think that the men in khaki would be spared from violence. Not really the case. One senior police official seen there with his hand cut. Another police official even attacked with an axe, who's got a deep gash on his hand as a result. Now you see other footage of, in fact, another police officer with a fracture. All of this playing out because these police officials bravely tried to stop this murderous mob. 4 DCPs were injured in this manner. One of them with a bleeding hand because of an axe. In fact, he tried to stop an axe when one of the mobsters came towards him with it. These are the kind of injuries that police officials have suffered as a result of this mob, apparently frenzied, apparently triggered by some rumor, went on this rampage. They were waiting for an excuse, quite simply, and that's what led to cops being attacked. And this clearly establishes that there was zero fear of the law. These hooligans were so sure they'd get away with it. This mob was about 80 to 100 people. And all of them, every single one of them, unfortunately, is yet to be identified. About 60 have been taken into custody.
पोलीस आले, पोलिसांवर देखील दगडफेक झाली. 4 DCP अतिशय गंभीररित्या जखमी आहेत. काही लोकांना दगडांनी दगडफेक केल्यामुळे जखमी झालेत. काही लोकांना तर मला समजलं की कुऱ्हाडीचा वार देखील त्या ठिकाणी केला. हत्यारं होती, पेट्रोल बॉम्ब टाकले गेले आणि हे सगळं जे काही घडलेलं आहे ते असं वाटतं की पूर्व नियोजित एक साजिश होती.
कोई एक शार्प वेपन उसमें यूज़ किया क्योंकि वो कट इंजरी दिखाई दे रही है, क्योंकि हम जब इन लोगों को अरेस्ट कर रहे थे, उनके पीछे भाग रहे थे, तो उसमें से किसी ने, जब वो नीचे उतर रहे थे एक घर से, तो उसके ऊपर अटैक करने की कोशिश की और जो कि उन्होंने अपने आप को बचाते हुए हाथ पे उनको लगी है, उनका इलाज चल रहा है.
So apparently what triggered this entire riot was a rumor. What exactly was this about? It was communal in nature. So let's just explain to you the timeline of what exactly happened. Yesterday at about 12 p.m. is when you had protests by Hindu groups, right-wing groups in Sambhaji Nagar district in Nagpur. They were seen burning Aurangzeb's effigy. This happened at 12 p.m., which we had reported here on India Today as well. We got your live reports. By about 2 p.m. yesterday afternoon, rumors started spreading among Muslims that the tomb had been targeted. Now, we can't go into the nature of this rumor because it was extremely communal and we don't want to trigger any sort of flare-up, considering it's very sensitive right now, the situation in Maharashtra. But essentially, this happened at 2. Then at 5 p.m., Muslim youth started to gather. These were groups who had gathered in Nagpur. By 7, things escalated because sloganeering began. It was clear that the numbers were swelling up, so you saw more police deployment also there. But in a matter of 15 minutes, things quickly went out of hand. It escalated because stones were pelted at police officials, Nagpur cops who were there. 15 minutes later, 7:30, news started trickling in that there were incidents of arson, incidents of vandalism. After all of this sloganeering, it quickly escalated because you had 100 people who had gathered on the streets of Nagpur. And then by around 8 p.m., cars were torched, shops were vandalized. Locals realized it's not safe anymore. They went inside their homes. Even their homes, their establishments were targeted. It was at around 9:30, 2 hours after the violence really began, that cops realized this will not do. We can't go ahead and stop this until we crack down on the mob. And that's why cops resorted to lathi charge, tear gas shells were fired, and only after that did this mob start dispersing. So from 7 p.m. to 9:30 is when we saw all of this chaos playing out. So who's to blame for the riots that broke out? Let's be very clear that the atmosphere was vitiated by our politicians, because you've seen this in the last few weeks. We've shown you here on India Today how you've seen comment after comment by politicians about Aurangzeb. They've made communal comments, they've ignited passions over Aurangzeb from both sides and made all sorts of provocative statements, and yet none of them have been held accountable. Instead, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has called a movie a trigger for the violence. That's right. Imagine this. In the Maharashtra Assembly, the Chief Minister has blamed the Chhawa movie for what's happening. Not one comment really about any of the netas who spewed venom using the movie.
आज महाराष्ट्रामध्ये विशेषतः म्हणजे मी कुठल्या सिनेमाला दोष देत नाहीये, खरं म्हणजे छावा या चित्रपटाने छत्रपती संभाजी महाराजांचा खरा इतिहास आपल्या समोर आणला. पण त्यानंतर राज्यामध्ये लोकांच्या भावना देखील खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणात त्या ठिकाणी एक प्रकारे प्रज्वलित झालेल्या आहेत. औरंगजेबाबद्दलचा जो काही राग आहे तो रागही खूप मोठ्या प्रमाणात त्या ठिकाणी बाहेर येतोय. या सगळ्या गोष्टी आपल्या ठिकाणी असल्या तरी मला असं वाटतं की महाराष्ट्रात कायदा आणि सुव्यवस्था राखणं हे अत्यंत महत्त्वाचं आहे. त्यामुळे सर्वांनी संयम बाळगला पाहिजे.
So a film based on historical facts, which could have, of course, triggered a debate, led to everyone talking about Aurangzeb, according to Mr. Fadnavis, also led to the violence. Not any of the comments, not Abu Azmi hailing Aurangzeb as a good ruler, not Fadnavis himself paying heed to the calls for the Aurangzeb tomb to be demolished, not Shiv Sena backing right-wing groups for action against the tomb. The atmosphere was vitiated. And our netas must be held accountable for doing so, for creating communal divisions over a Mughal emperor just to pander to their respective vote banks. So no, a film can trigger a debate. It cannot lead to these riots weeks after it's released, unless misused, unless exploited, as it was in this case in the last many weeks. And we've shown you so many of those comments. But today, let's talk about the reactions that have come in on these riots in Nagpur, with the opposition raising questions, really, of the Mahayuti government. Let's get you what the opposition had to say.
ये जानना है कि मुख्यमंत्री कार्यालय से क्यों ना कोई रिएक्शन आई जब अफवाहें फैलने लगी थी. जब भी किसी शहर में ऐसी घटना होती है, और ये तो खुद मुख्यमंत्री का शहर है, स्वयं उनका शहर है, मुख्यमंत्री भी है, वो गृह मंत्री भी है, और ये अनुमान लगाया जाता है, मैंने भी सीएमओ काफी नजदीक से देखा है, कभी भी ऐसी घटना होती है तो पहला रिपोर्ट सीएमओ को आता है, सीएम के मोबाइल फोन पे आता है, होम डिपार्टमेंट भी आता है, दोनों डिपार्टमेंट्स उनके साथ है. क्या उनको पता नहीं था ये होने वाला है? मेरा अंदाज यही है कि भाजपा को महाराष्ट्र का मणिपुर करना है. मणिपुर में अगर आप देखें तो पिछले 1 साल से जैसी बातें हो रही है वैसे ही दंगे हो रहे हैं, किसी न किसी को जलाया जा रहा है, किसी को मारा जा रहा है. क्या आज वहां इन्वेस्टमेंट जाएगी? क्या कोई पर्यटन जाएगा? नहीं जाएगा. और यही उनको महाराष्ट्र का करना है, यही हाल उनको महाराष्ट्र की करने हैं. और जहां जहां भाजपा को शासन चलाने नहीं आता है वहां दंगे भड़काते.
आपने क्या किया कि कुरान की जो आयतें हैं, जो वर्सेस हैं कुरान के, जो एक कपड़े पर लिखी जाती हैं, उसको आपने जलाया. और जब ये हरकत हो रही थी तो उसी वक्त जाकर मुकामी वहां के जो मुसलमान और हिंदू लोग थे जाकर कंप्लेन किए डीसीपी को. उसके बाद शाम में ये सब चीजें हुई. मैं उसका कंडेम करता हूँ वायलेंस का, मगर इसको टोटल देखिए आप कि जो स्टेटमेंट्स एमिनेट हुए हैं, जो स्टेटमेंट दिए गए हैं मिनिस्टर्स की तरफ से, अभी भी दिए जा रहे हैं. भाई आप रूल ऑफ लॉ को फॉलो करिए ना. आप तो भारत के संविधान पर आपने ओथ लिया है, तो आप कैसे प्रोवोकेटिव स्टेटमेंट्स क्यों दे रहे हैं आप? तो ये बहुत गलत हो रहा है. सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है, ये सरकार की गलती है, इंटेलिजेंस की फेलियर है. उस जगह जहां से महाराष्ट्र के मुख्यमंत्री आते हैं, और ये जो वायलेंस हुआ है हमारे केंद्रीय मंत्री के घर के करीब है पूरा, ये बड़ी गलत बात हो रही है.
Just to show you the extent of damage reported and how bad this riot and violence really was last night, here are some ground reports by my colleagues Sumi and Mustafa, who've been there since late last night, showing you the extent of damage really created because of this riot and how locals' lives have been turned upside down in the last 24 hours.
A conspiracy was hatched, and in fact the way they were prepared with everything, they were well equipped to carry out this huge mob, and in fact to erupt violence at various points in Nagpur, which is otherwise very, very peaceful. I would like you to show this particular shop that has been destroyed. It is known as Fatehpuria shop, and this particular cloth shop has been destroyed. This is the heights and the gravity of the violence that took place here in Nagpur. You see, the stones were hurled swelled to such a height that the glass panels of this particular shop has been completely destroyed and broken. And you see the CCTV footages on both the ends of the shutter can be seen destroyed, so that it becomes a challenging, a daunting task for the forces to identify the rioters. And this is something that has happened across Nagpur. All the CCTV footages, wherever possible, were broken, which is why it certainly indicates the very fact that it was pre-planned. And the kind of stones, the brick bats that they were carrying, the kind of cobblestones that they were carrying, heavy concrete bricks they have used to pelt stones and to destroy properties that came in their hindsight. And in fact, 10 to 12 vehicles have been destroyed. Almost 20 vehicles have been destroyed, and 10 to 12 police personnel have been severely injured, including three DCPs who are now currently undergoing treatment. The violent clashes that disrupted the harmony of Nagpur took place on March 17 in the wee hours of 7:30 p.m. and in fact it panned for 2 hours, and it took place at 7:30, went on till 9:30. I'm showing you the latest visuals from Mahal area where this entire incident took place. This particular Tiago, silver Tiago that you're witnessing out here, has been set ablaze. Every vehicle that was parked outside on this particular street met the same fate, including this particular Swift Desire here as well, that has been completely disturbed and disrupted. And in fact, the window and the entire vehicle has been completely destroyed. And several teams of police, the contingency you can see to avoid further escalation and law and order remains intact, is certainly the priority of the state government right now. And there is a lot of blame game that's also happening right here. Although Nitin Gadkari, the union minister, as well as the chief minister Devendra Fadnavis have asked that all of the people in the neighborhood should maintain peace. Nagpur is known for its harmony, and people should now show this Nagpur has always been this a place of harmony, and it should always continue to be like that despite such disruptors. This is Sumi Rajapun for India Today with videos journalist Raghavendra Pandey from Nagpur.
We are in Nagpur. This area is Hansapuri. The violence which took place in Mahal area of Nagpur, after that 2 hours later there was a huge crowd of about 350 to 400 people covering their faces, raising slogans, having weapons in their hand. The sharp knife you can see is in the hands of one of the rioter accused, and the CCTVs have been broken. You can see these motorcycles of the residents have been burnt, and not only that, that crowd was violent. They were throwing stones, and at this point you can say that people who were living here, their residences, their houses, there were stone pelted at these houses. They were trying to get inside, but somehow these people were able to save their lives. आप जो कल का हादसा हुआ सुनील जी, उसके बाद ये कहेंगे कि जान आपकी बची है, क्या मंशा थी उन लोगों की?
उन लोग के तो वही पिक्चर थी कि कुछ ना कुछ घर जला दे। घर तो जल ही जाता था अगर हम अपने हाथ से पानी डाल के नहीं बुझाते थे। घर तो क्योंकि इतनी ज्यादा जली, हमने कैसे आजू बाजू के लोग ने सहयोग करके, उसके बाद पे अगर उन लोग का हाथ अगर हम आ जाते तो कि अंदर तक के घुसे, तो दरवाजा तो वो गेट तो देखिए, वो दरवाजा भी तोड़ के अंदर तक घुसे। हमने तो जैसे तैसे अंदर जाके दरवाजा बंद करके अंदर हो गए, लेकिन फिर भी हम नहीं हाथ पे आए तो इनका गाड़ियों का सत्यानाश कर दिए। बिल्कुल तो हमारा कर देते, पिक्चर खत्म।
यहीं and you can see it across. This is one house across. Also, there are mobile videos which have come forward. So the crowd which was there turned violent, tried to break this the door of this house. The door of the house is broken, and the entire vicinity is somewhere you can say that they are scared. They are asking a lot of questions, and they are saying that what happened yesterday they had not.
So we'll continue focusing really on all of those questions about whether the riot in Nagpur was pre-planned, who is involved, who is to blame, who is to be held accountable. We'll track all of that, but let's talk about the other big talking point right now, which is on the Mahakumbh, because you had Prime Minister Modi speaking in the Lok Sabha today on the Mahakumbh, hailing its success and also going ahead and talking about how it establishes India as a global power. Now, even as the Prime Minister spoke, you had the opposition going ahead and creating ruckus, demanding a debate in the Lok Sabha, saying, why is there no mention of the stampede deaths at the Kumbh? The opposition has questioned why there was no discussion and it was a mere statement from Prime Minister Modi. But Prime Minister Modi also spoke of the Kumbh as a religious festival which was a symbol of India's rising spirit. He did also speak about all of the politics, saying that it's sent across a right message. The Mahakumbh success has sent across a message to all of the doubters. Let's get you some of the highlights of what the Prime Minister said and also why the opposition is objecting.
किसी भी राष्ट्र के जीवन में, मानव जीवन के इतिहास में भी अनेक ऐसे मोड़ आते हैं जो सदियों के लिए, आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए उदाहरण बन जाते हैं। हमारे देश के इतिहास में भी ऐसे पल आए हैं जिन्होंने देश को नई दिशा दी, देश को झकझोर कर जागृत कर दिया। जैसे भक्ति आंदोलन के कालखंड में हमने देखा कैसे देश के कोने कोने में आध्यात्मिक चेतना उभरी। स्वामी विवेकानंद जी ने शिकागो में एक सदी पहले जो भाषण दिया, वो भारत की आध्यात्मिक चेतना का जयघोष था। उसने भारतीयों के आत्मसम्मान को जगा दिया था। हमारी आजादी के आंदोलन में भी अनेक ऐसे पड़ाव आए हैं। 1857 का स्वातंत्र संग्राम हो, वीर भगत सिंह की शहादत का समय हो, नेताजी सुभाष बाबू का दिल्ली चलो का जयघोष हो, गांधी जी का दांडी मार्च हो, ऐसे ही पड़ावों से प्रेरणा पाकर भारत ने आजादी हासिल की। मैं प्रयागराज महाकुंभ को भी ऐसे ही एक अहम पड़ाव के रूप में देखता हूं, जिसमें जागरूक होते हुए देश का प्रतिबिंब नजर आता है। महाकुंभ में हमने हमारी राष्ट्रीय चेतना के जागरण के विराट दर्शन किए हैं। ये जो राष्ट्रीय चेतना है, ये जो राष्ट्र को नए संकल्पों की तरफ ले जाती है, ये नए संकल्पों की सिद्धि के लिए प्रेरित करती है। महाकुंभ ने उन शंकाओं आशंकाओं को भी उचित जवाब दिया है जो हमारे सामर्थ्य को लेकर कुछ लोगों के मन में रहती है।
जो प्रधानमंत्री ने बोला, मैं उसको सपोर्ट करना चाह रहा था। कुंभ हमारी एक प्रकार से हमारा ट्रेडिशन है, हिस्ट्री है, कल्चर है। एक कंप्लेंट थी, एक शिकायत थी, श्रद्धांजलि नहीं दी प्रधानमंत्री ने। जो लोग जिनकी मृत्यु हुई थी उनको श्रद्धांजलि नहीं दी। और दूसरी बात मैं ये कहना चाहता था कि देखिए, कुंभ की जगह है, मगर जो युवा कुंभ में गए उनको प्रधानमंत्री से एक और चीज चाहिए, उनको रोजगार चाहिए, और प्रधानमंत्री को रोजगार के बारे में भी बोलना चाहिए।
मैम, विपक्ष को भी अपनी बात रखने देने का मौका दिया जाना चाहिए था।
बिल्कुल देने जाना चाहिए था, क्योंकि विपक्ष की भी भावनाएं हैं इसके प्रति, और उनको प्रकट करने में कोई उनको आपत्ति नहीं होनी चाहिए थी। तो मेरे ख्याल से उनको 2 मिनट के लिए बोलने देना चाहिए।
A 9-month countdown all set to come to an end tomorrow morning at exactly 3:27 a.m. Indian Standard Time, because that's when Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore will finally get back home, return to Earth. This was the exact moment when the Dragon spacecraft actually undocked from the International Space Station. It happened this afternoon at around 11 a.m. and then the journey began. So at 3:27 a.m. Indian Standard Time, I know you're all going to be up to watch it, Sunita Williams will finally return back home after an excruciating 9-month long wait. And of course, we've all got our fingers crossed that this is a smooth mission back home.
Sunita Sunny Williams is on her way back to Earth. SpaceX Dragon spacecraft successfully undocked on Tuesday morning to start its journey with 4 astronauts on board. It's been close to 9 months since Sunita and Butch left Earth on their space mission. Sunita Williams was the captain for the International Space Station for all these months. Once the Crew 10 reached, she handed over her responsibility to the next crew on Sunday and started to prepare for her return. With warm hugs, Butch and Sunny bid farewell to the International Space Station on Tuesday morning. It was their home for the last few months. In the Phase 1, the Dragon capsule detached from ISS and started its journey back to Earth. The trunk and capsule separates in Phase 2. The trunk then deorbits and burns up in the atmosphere. Thrusters ignite for 15 minutes, deorbit, burn in the Phase 3. Next, the spacecraft repositions itself to enter atmosphere. Parachutes are deployed in the Phase 5 to stabilize the capsule, and in the final phase, it splashes down for 50 kilometers of Florida. Fast boats extract astronauts and bring them to the shore.
But you start feeling this gentle push on your back, and that is the deceleration forces building up, the G-forces. But it comes on quite rapidly, and they're going to feel up to about 4, maybe 5 Gs of deceleration, which is quite punishing after that length of time in zero gravity. And it gets very warm in the spacecraft as well. It's about 1600 Celsius outside the spacecraft. You even see the plasma enveloping the whole spacecraft out the windows. So it gets very warm inside. And then probably the most aggressive part is about 6 or 7 minutes later, once you're through most of the atmosphere, and then the parachutes open. And that you're still probably going just over the speed of sound. So when the parachutes start to slow you down and start opening, the capsule is swung around quite violently underneath.
Nearly 8,500 miles away from Florida, in the native village of Sunita Williams' father, Gujarati people are praying for her safe return. In the ancient Dolo Devi Mandir in Julsana village of Mehsana, Akhand Jyoti was lit since she got stuck in space.
Since the time she was to return earlier in June 2024, since then, they have been praying for Sunita Williams' safety. Dola Ma's picture was taken along by Sunita Williams when she had gone to space earlier. And these villagers are confident and they have full faith on Ma that Sunita Williams will be returning home safe and sound.
The whole village was waiting for her safe return.
बच्चे भी बहुत उत्साहित हो जाते हैं कि हम भी ऐसे बने, और वो तो हमारे गांव का एक अनमोल रत्न है. हमारा गांव का नाम बड़ा रोशन किया है पूरा विश्व में, तो हमको आनंद तो होगा ना.
Sunita Williams visited Julsana village twice, in 2007 and then in 2013.
These children are praying for her safe return on Earth. This is Julsana village in Mehsana, where you can see this school, which is inspiring these children to become like Sunita Williams and make India proud in the world. You can see the pictures of Sunita Williams that have been put up in this particular school in Julsana village of Mehsana in Gujarat.
उनको देख के, उनके बारे में सुन के तो बच्चे बहुत ही प्रेरणा लेते हैं, बनना भी चाहते हैं, लेकिन किस तरह से बनेंगे वो सब ये जब सुनीता जी आएगी और उनके मुंह से हम सुनेंगे तो बहुत ही बढ़िया रहेगा. बच्चे भी उत्सुक हैं उनसे मिलने के लिए और उनके जैसे बनने के लिए तैयारी भी कर रहे हैं.
Rare and conducive weather will ensure that the splashdown at around 3:30 a.m. India time on 19th March is a success, and Sunita Williams is finally home. With Shivani Sharma, Bureau Report, India Today.
So right now, as we speak, Sunita Williams, Butch Wilmore are heading back to the Earth orbit. And at 3:27 a.m., like I said, they will be splashed down several kilometers off Florida's coast. But let's show you what really the capsule looks like. The Dragon spacecraft's capsule in which currently Sunita is traveling. front, you see the front view, the hatch that's there. It's from there that the astronauts enter inside. There is, in fact, a capacity of 7, but right now there are 4 people inside. Crew 9 Commander Nick Hague, Sunita herself, Butch Wilmore, and also you have the Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbunov. Now, all 4 of them are currently seated in this capsule where you see in the body. Right below that is the trunk payload. In this particular case, doesn't look like, or at least we don't know what really the payload is carrying, but the rest of it is also an extension. Now look on the other side. That particular area has also the solar panels along with the thruster. The thruster, of course, plays a key role in ensuring that when it enters into Earth's orbit, the Dragon spacecraft and the entire capsule kind of stabilizes and then makes a downward controlled descent into India, into Earth and close to Florida's coast. All right, to explain to you what exactly this entire mission looks like, what can you expect closer to 3:30 tomorrow morning when Sunita Williams is expected to come back home to return to planet Earth, I spoke to ISRO Chief Dr. V. Narayanan about the entire mission and also perhaps the lessons that ISRO is taking from this mission for Gaganyaan. Joining us now here on India Today is the ISRO Chief, Dr. V. Narayanan. Mr. Narayanan, Vanakkam, thank you very much for your time. It's an honor to have you here with us on India Today. I'm sure you, sir, join the entire world in keeping our fingers crossed to ensure the safe return of Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore. But I'd love to know from you, sir, how exactly this kind of a mission works. How does the Dragon spacecraft now return back to Earth's orbit? We've seen the undocking happening successfully.
As all of you know, today morning, 10:35, the entire undocking process has started, and they have operated because a lot of thrusters are there. The thrusters are operated. In fact, already 3 times, if I am correct, it is operated, and 4th time is going to be operated by around 2:30 or so. Then, by that process, they will come. Then, last phase is by the parachute deployment. And if my understanding is correct, tomorrow early morning Indian time, something around 3:27 or so, Madam is going to successfully land. And we all are expecting for that great event. But as a techno manager, I can very well say the effort put by the team is very good. And they will be safely and successfully landing.
Dr. Narayanan, you know, with your expertise, sir, I'd love to know from you how complicated really is this kind of a mission to bring astronauts back to Earth to ensure successful splashdown?
No, it's a very, very complex mission because please understand from the ISS coming back and then you have to cross the dense atmosphere. When you enter, there will be a lot of heat flux generation. And of course, the entire module has got that capability. Then in a very, very controlled way, they have to be brought down and all the system has to work in a synchronized and cohesive way, in an autonomous way it has to work. And then being a propulsion expert, I can understand the propulsion system has to work properly. But I am sure the way already it is demonstrated, system is working fantastically well. So that's what we are also noticing. And then I expect a perfect and successful landing.
We all hope so, sir. Can you explain to us, Dr. Narayanan, because everyone's going to be watching this live, and not all of us, of course, are experts. We don't really know what to watch out for. What is the most critical maneuver to you, sir, that you'll see completed, and when that's completed, you will say, look, this is going to be a successful mission?
No, critically say, when you are traveling from space back, you know, a lot of criticalities are there. Number one, the safety of the astronauts. Of course, here there are 2 astronauts. Their safety is very, very important. And the entire mission operation, what has to be done, executed, it's a 17 hours equivalent mission operation from the time of separation to landing. And it has to undergo different phases. And then, of course, the thrusters have to work, and then one should not land with high velocity, and everything has to be controlled way. But they have got full expertise. and a closed loop control system, everything is available. And finally, they have to land with the parachutes. Surely they will come back and land safely.
Why do we see always these kind of returns happening in water? Why is it always a splashdown?
No, you say there are so many ways of landing, and because it is depending upon how the mission you plan and design. Because whether you land on land or this one, the process is same only. But then it is the way they would have planned the mission.
For Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, sir, they were supposed to be in space for 8 days. Instead, it became 9 months and perhaps more than that also. And obviously, of course, we're all praying that they return safely. But even post that, sir, it is, of course, going to be challenging for Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore to kind of, again, adapt to living in Earth. How challenging is that, sir, living in space versus coming back to Earth?
People are expert in this field. Once Madam lands, they will be taken and put through the required medical tests, and all the required medical things will be given. And these are all well-known, well-established process. And of course, 9 months Madam was there, and I think they were enthusiastically doing a lot of experiments. And then once she lands, probably the way Madam is talking, I can understand they are totally in order. And then once they land, I think the medical team will take care of them.
I agree. She's been very, very positive through, I'm sure, what's been a very, very hard time. Dr. Narayanan, you mentioned the experiments that she's been a part of in space for the last many months. Do you think this mission, or what Sunita Williams has been doing in the last many months in space, also gives us some key takeaways for ISRO, particularly keeping in mind Gaganyaan?
No, ISRO is an organization. ISRO is an organization. We really always learn the lesson from our own experience, also the experience of others. Because in order to accomplish a successful mission, you should be very smart enough to understand what is happening, and that we do, our team really do, our various team, they do that activity. In fact, you all may be knowing Mars Orbiter mission, the mission to Red Planet. India is the first country which succeeded in the first attempt. And we have learned the lesson from others, whatever observation was there, we have learned the lesson and we have perfectly executed. And thereby, whenever we take up a new mission, we also understand what is happening elsewhere, what are all the things we have to take home for executing our mission successfully. So we take all the expertise, all the knowledge, all the observations available in the similar missions so that we will do our mission in a most professional, cost-effective and successful way.
Every once in a while, Dr. Narayanan, there's one incident that, again, triggers a lot of curiosity over space, over the exploration of space. And everyone's right now focused also on Gaganyaan. I'm sure our viewers would love to know, sir, the status of really that mission, if you could tell us how much you can really about what's really happening on that front.
No, Gaganyaan, to accomplish the Gaganyaan, we have to do a lot of developments. One is the vehicle has to be human rated. Human rating means improving the redundancies, enhancing the reliability aspects, and improving the margin, subjecting the subsystems and major system to enough number of tests. And with respect to the vehicle, almost I will say 90% tests are completed. And except 1 or 2 areas, you have to complete some more tests. Otherwise, the vehicle is almost human rated. Second thing is the orbital module in which the Gaganyaan is out to be there. We have to maintain the required pressure, temperature, the carbon dioxide has to be controlled, and partial pressure of oxygen, relative humidity. So towards that, lot of development work, we call it as environmental control and safety system, lot of development works are going on, and we are reaching the final phase. Then another important thing is during the entire mission, if anything happens to the hardware or the rockets or any systems, then it's our prime responsibility to safeguard the Gaganyaan. So we have developed a crew escape system, and that we are in the process of completely qualifying the system. Couple of important experiments we have done using a test vehicle. In fact, we took a module to some altitude and we simulated a failure condition, and it was brought down safely. Rather using a crew escape system, it was lifted off and safely landed in the seawater, and our Navy ship went and picked up. In fact, I was very happy to participate in that entire program. Rather the vehicle development we only did. I was the Mission Readiness Review Committee chairperson, and we also went and received the module from the Navy in Chennai. And then coming to the entire mission, end-to-end mission, starting from the liftoff of the rocket to rocket takes to 170 kilometers. From there, we have to take them to 400 kilometers, keep them oriented and safely in that orbit. Then after the required orbits, we have to bring them back. And for taking from 170 kilometers to 400 kilometers and bringing to some level, propulsion systems are required. Those things are completely developed, tested, and the final phase of qualification is going on. Then in the final phase, they have to be brought down using parachutes. Same way, whatever now, madam, when she lands, they will be using parachutes. So parachutes, almost 9 numbers of parachutes are required. And all the testing qualification is almost completed, I will say. Now, we have clearly put, because human life is involved, simply you cannot put them in a launcher and we cannot send. So before sending them and bringing them back safely, we are planning 3 uncrewed missions. Okay. And first uncrewed mission with a Biomitra is going to lift off from Indian soil. This year we are working towards that. Subsequently, we have to study the results and accomplish 2 more uncrewed missions. Then, after studying all the results, if it is consistent and if you are all convinced and the nation is convinced, we will authorize the crewed mission.
Okay, we are convinced when you are, sir. Can I just say that we're so incredibly proud of what you and your entire team is doing. We wish you all the very, very best. Will you be watching, sir, tomorrow at 3:27 a.m. when Sunita Williams touches down?
Observing, and because it is an exciting moment, and we'll be observing. Yeah, I'll be watching.
I'm sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Narayanan Nande. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. So the ISRO chief, as excited as every single one of us for the splashdown, which will be made by the Dragon spacecraft at 3:27 a.m. Crew 9 is headed back to Earth. But in their time on the International Space Station, they've helped with studies to design better reactors, to build wooden satellites, and prepare for missions to the Moon as well as Mars. So let's hear it from them about what really they did, their study in space, how they've spent the last many months.
We're constantly doing experiments, we're constantly collecting data, we're constantly trying to answer questions, and usually that leads to more questions. The focus of the question, though, is what happens when you take gravity away? Because it's such a strong force, it masks lots of the nuances in different things that behave around us, and understanding those nuances helps us understand more about ourselves as well as the universe and how we interact with it. So we look at medicines, we look at materials and making new materials. We look at how we behave so that we know how medicines might interact with us or how to counteract diseases. You name it, we're doing research on it up here.
We've had opportunities to do all sorts of science, spacewalks. It's varied and pretty awesome, actually, opportunity to do something different every single day.
You can see Butch Wilmore with the different canisters to collect those microorganism swabs.
A great view from the helmet camera of NASA astronaut Nick Hague. You can see floating off just past that left hand of his. Those are the wedge-shaped NICER patches that he'll be inserting into the NICER experiment, the X-ray telescope.
Anytime you look out the window, it's pretty amazing. The Aurora Borealis, the Aurora Australis, just to see the variety of the Earth from above, it's just thrilling.
These are called Astrobees. So they actually can come off the wall and fly around. Huge opportunities for people to test out guidance navigation control on a quote-unquote spacecraft in microgravity inside here. So we have companies, universities, students all flying these Astrobees around at different times. Some of them are actually even grabbing onto other pieces that we might have floating around, and that might help us clean up space debris. We have a tray right here that does some combustion experiments. Right on the other side of Butch is a glove box where we've done some stem cell research as well as DNA sequencing. And there's an airlock where it can take payloads out of the space station, and those could be Earth observation satellites, they could be launchers of other microsatellites, they could be doing all sorts of amazing stuff.
The mission of the space station, the scientific exploration, is something that we deeply believe in, and its ability to make a positive impact for all of humanity.
How amazing is that? They've kept themselves busy for the last many months. Now it's time, of course, to come back home, take a bit of a break and relax. For 9 months, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore have essentially been stranded in space. We're going to be tracking all those live updates. We're live through the night here on India Today to ensure that you don't miss a single update that comes in as we get set for splashdown. Sunita Williams expected at 3:27 a.m. Indian Standard Time. As I wrap up this edition of Super 6, I'm also going to tell you about Prime Minister Modi's letter to Sunita Williams. This was a letter that he sent to her on March 1st, and it highlights really how India has such a deep connect with Sunita. And the Prime Minister in that letter also said that he spoke to President Trump about Sunita Williams, inquired about her well-being. He says 1.4 billion Indians have taken pride in your achievements. Even though you're thousands of miles away, you remain close to our hearts. And the Prime Minister has also highlighted how the people of India love Sunita, saying the Indians are praying for your health and success. We look forward to seeing you in India, and that it will be a pleasure for all of us here in India to host one of our most illustrious daughters. On this note, I'm wrapping up this broadcast of Super 6. Thank you very much for tuning in.